1,000 blades, taken from the hands of Aegon's fallen enemies, forged in the fiery breath of Balerion the Dread.
There aren't 1,000 blades. There aren't even 200. I've counted.
I'm sure you have. Ugly old thing.
Yet it has a certain appeal.
The Lysa Arryn of chairs. Shame you had to settle for your second choice.
Early days, my friend. It is flattering. Really. You feeling such dread at the prospect of me getting what I want.
Thwarting you has never been my primary ambition, I promise you. Although who doesn't like to see their friends fail now and then?
You're so right. For instance, when I thwarted your plan to give Sansa Stark to the Tyrells, if, I'm going to be honest, I did feel an unmistakable sense of enjoyment there. But your confidant, the one who fed you information about my plans, the one you swore to protect, you didn't bring her any enjoyment. And she didn't bring me any enjoyment. She was a bad investment on my part. Luckily, I have a friend who wants to try something new, something daring. And he was so grateful to me for providing this fresh experience.
I did what I did for the good of the realm.
The realm? Do you know what the realm is? It's the 1,000 blades of Aegon's enemies. A story we agreed to tell each other over and over till we forget that it's a lie.
But what do we have left once we abandon the lie? Chaos. A gaping pit waiting to swallow us all.
Chaos isn't a pit. Chaos is a ladder. Many who try to climb it fail, and never get to try again. The fall breaks them. And some are given a chance to climb, but they refuse. They cling to the realm, or the gods, or love. Illusions. Only the ladder is real. The climb is all there is.
Listen, of all the things you're about to lose, this will be the most painful. This isn't your life. It's your offering. So which one of these guys, if you're fans of Game of Thrones, which one of these two men represents Slavoj Zizek and which is Jordan Peterson? I think I hear a little bit of Jordan Peterson in Varys and in Littlefinger, but let me know in the comments below what you think. So some impressions about the debate. I guess I will start with what I was thinking before the debate, because a lot of times we come to conclusions based on our preconceived notions of what's going on. So before the debate, I was a little bit unsure of why they were talking about happiness, why it was titled the way it was titled, why it was centered around that, because neither of those guys seemed to be all about happiness or concerned in finding happiness or defending happiness and so forth. So I was just unsure of how they came to that kind of framing for the debate. It seemed very odd to me. Secondly, I thought if Jordan stuck to what his experience is, what his expertise is in psychology, he would do just fine. I thought if he strayed from that into philosophy too much, then he would get trounced by a professional philosopher. As far as Zizek, this is really my first time seeing him speak, hearing him speak, And I really enjoyed him. I really enjoyed how the whole thing turned out, actually. And as far as my preconceived notions of what was going on and how that colors my perception of what happened in actuality, I don't know. I was pleased with the debate. I think Jordan did stick fairly closely to his expertise. He didn't really venture out too much into unknown territory. And so I want to address some things that I don't think have been addressed in other reviews of the debate. For one, Jordan comes out swinging against the Communist Manifesto, and there's a lot of questioning, why would he do that? He seemed to come prepared for a certain type of debate, while Slavoj Zizek came for a whole other type of ordeal. And I think Jordan, a good reason why, if I'm going to give Jordan a good reason, maybe this is not his reason, but it's the reason that I would have for doing what he did, is that most people are familiar with the Communist Manifesto if they're in these circles, right? So if you're a fan of Jordan Peterson, you probably have read the Communist Manifesto or parts of it, and certainly if you're a fan of Zizek, you have read it, and you're probably a fan of it. Although I think his fans, and I'll get to this later, are probably not too into the Communist Manifesto, or at least that's his goal. I'll get to that, probably the last thing in this video. But so I think critiquing the Communist Manifesto, if you're Jordan Peterson, is the better move than critiquing a lesser known work of Karl Marx. And I mean lesser known to the sort of common person. The common person is not going to have read Das Kapital or something, although I just picked up a copy of the first part of it's like 1,000 pages, but hopefully that'll be my reading for May or something. Because I do think it's important, if you're going to argue these things, that you are more familiar with something like that than just the Communist Manifesto. I was just so turned off when I read the Communist Manifesto in college that I just didn't decide. I wrote Marx off completely. So that's why I never went on to anything else he had said. But maybe that's a mistake, according to Slavoj Zizek. So I'm open to that possibility, and I bought the book, and I'm going to be reading it. But anyway, so back to Jordan Peterson and his critique of the Communist Manifesto. I thought it was fine. Everybody thinks it's a fine critique. There's nothing wrong with what he said. And I think the reason why he chose that is because you're talking to an audience who's probably familiar with it. And most people are probably not that familiar with the other works. So your critique is going to go a longer distance when you're critiquing something that people are somewhat familiar with than if they're totally not familiar with it. So besides that, I think there were two interesting questions that they each asked each other, one per person. Slavoj had a sort of gotcha question, which is, name these these postmodern neo-Marxists that you're always railing against. I want names. Who are they? This is sort of a gotcha question you see on, if you ever saw Bill O'Reilly's show on Fox News, he would always ask this, well, name three things. Name three of these people, or three or whatever. And, when a person is arguing, say, in a general way, they may not have specific names at hand, or they may be nervous and not remember them, or what have you. And it's a good rhetorical trick if you're in a debate to score points with the audience. And that's all I saw that as. I thought Jordan answered it well, though. He was, at first, I think he took a pause to think of how he's going to answer that. And he first cited Jonathan Haidt's survey of college professors, of which 40% identified as Marxist, which I thought was a good start. And then he further answered how he could have this notion of a postmodern neo-Marxist, and since many people have told Jordan that that's just an impossible category, those two ideas conflict too much to be held by a singular person. And so Jordan gave a good defense of that categorization. And then Jordan asked Slavoj Zizek an interesting question. Why does he call himself a Marxist? And I thought that was interesting, and I thought that was an honest question. I don't think it was a gotcha question, because Slavoj wasn't really defending Marxism, and it was really a curious thing. And as I was watching the debate, I was wondering the same thing, and so I'm glad Jordan asked that question. I'm gonna touch on my personal opinion on why that is in a moment, but. So I think Jordan did okay with his gotcha question, and more than okay, really. I think he answered it very well. It pretty much shut Zizek up about that issue. He had no qualms about how Jordan explained that, and then from there on, the two had an interesting conversation. I mean, and that's really well worth it if you happen to pay for the stream. I wasn't going to pay for it because I didn't really think much would come from the debate, because I kind of knew that they both agreed on a lot of this stuff, or had similar enough opinions about these things. So I was going through Facebook that night, and I noticed someone asked a question in a Jordan Peterson study group about the link to the debate, and someone responded that, well, here's a link, and it's sort of working, and I happened to click on it, and it was working, and so I just happened to see the debate kind of by accident that way, and it was a happy accident. I'm glad I watched it. I really liked Zizek after the debate. I thought he was very funny and interesting, and I liked Peterson's response to him, and I think the whole event went down very well, even though I know there are some people saying it was just not what they were hoping for. So all in all, I think, Jordan is trying to take us one step closer to where we need to be. I think, as Vanderklay keeps saying, Jordan keeps putting forth, he's marching, sort of towards the God issue, the belief in Jesus issue, sort of one step at a time, and so he's taking a step forward and trying to build a certain case towards that. In a certain sense, and then maybe Zizek is taking us a step backwards. So you kind of come away with nobody really winning the debate or losing the debate. I just thought it was a good conversation, not really much of a debate at all. And so, my personal theory as to why Zizek calls himself a communist or a Marxist, I think he's doing some kind of covert ops, in that an intellectual covert ops, in that there are a certain type of people who will be attracted to a professor or philosopher with his sort of stature and with that label, and they will sort of eat up everything he puts out. And there are some people who will kind of superficially identify as Marxist, and again, those are just the manifesto readers. And they see him and his work, and they might start sampling it, and they might start digesting it and understanding it more and more. And he might suck those people in. And those are people he might actually save from the more hardcore Marxist, perhaps the more negative ideology. And perhaps, even though he's such a pessimist, perhaps his brand of, quote, Marxism, which I think Jordan Peterson says, why doesn't he just call it Zizekism or something, is less harmful than that original Marxism, and perhaps alternatives that have been developed since then. So that's just my little theory as to what could be going on. And this is something, when he answers Jordan's question, this is, if he's doing a covert ops, he can't say it. So he can't say, I'm just trying to save all those people who would normally get sucked into this Marxism stuff, because that would sort of ruin his whole mission. Anyway, that's all I have to say about the debate. Those are some impressions. I really liked Vanderklay's video and the distributist's commentary on this debate. So if you haven't seen that, you should probably watch that too. And anyway, if you haven't already, please subscribe and give this video a like. Thanks.